What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Let's see. Stop sharing for a minute. My name is David with the Omega Collective. If you don't know who I am, most of the people that I've invited, I've let know who I am. But welcome to today's webinar. What we're going to be discussing today is we're going to be discussing really dealing with motivated sellers and kind of making sure they're actually motivated sellers. So one of the big things that I do with, my business and, acquiring properties and looking for properties is talking to motivated sellers. And a lot of times people are like, hey, David, there's a really good opportunity. There's a good deal. This is something, you want to check out. You need to reach out to these individuals. And I'm like, okay, cool. And they're not really motivated sellers. And that is, I think, important. I think it's really important to actually know if they're motivated sellers or not. Like, make sure that you're actually dealing with someone that's motivated, because a lot of times you can end up wasting your time. So that's one thing I'm going to cover today, is kind of talk about, making sure there is motivation when you're talking to individuals, whether you're cold calling, if you speak to someone that's in pre-foreclosure, there's motivation there, but are they actually motivated to get things done? One of the biggest things I'll see is a lot of times when, if you've seen any of my foreclosure videos, I'm like, hey, the first person, early bird gets the worm. So as soon as someone receives a pre-foreclosure notification, I like to be out there reaching out to them and talking to them. So, talking to these different individuals is important to me, because you want to be first. You want to let them know, hey, we can help you. And a lot of times that ends up backfiring, because what will happen is they're not motivated yet. They're like, oh, yeah, we received a pre-foreclosure notice. And depending on how quickly, your skills are to be able to pull a foreclosure list and how early it is, I'm fairly early. Their motivation doesn't really kick in yet, because they're at the point where they're like, oh, well, yeah, we're going to be facing foreclosure, but it's not a huge deal to us. We're going to figure it out. So that's where follow-up comes in. And I tell everyone, you should always follow up on everything you do in business without saying the words follow up. I think it's kind of cliche, like, oh, I'm following up with you to see what you're going to do with your foreclosure. You just follow up and say, hey, I'm just reaching back out to you guys, see if you got it situated, if there's any questions you had or anything I can do to help. So I always follow up without saying the word follow up. I think it's really important. So we'll get right into the presentation. If you have any questions, you can write them in the comments in the chat. This recording will be available on the omegacollective.com, and parts of it will be available on YouTube. But I'm going to jump right into the content of what we're going to be discussing today. So we're going to talk about the psychology of a motivated seller. So understanding the motivation is really, really important. So whether if you see her have financial distress, life changes, and property issues. Financial distress is always a real big one, because you're dealing with foreclosures or people behind on their taxes or whatnot. Those different things along those lines are really, really ways for individuals to hey, something has to change. And usually financial distress means somebody can take their property away. So if it's somebody that's dealing with, a foreclosure, that means there's a tool that the original lender or mortgage lender, however they got their money, even HELOCs. I see a lot of HELOCs getting foreclosed on now. You'll have an individual that doesn't have the funds to pay that. And there's some different ways they can, postpone it. And a lot of people try to do that, but they're going to lose the property. So you have to, go with that motivation. So sellers facing, financial distress, they're facing foreclosure, bankruptcy, overwhelming debt. They're going to be motivated to sell. And a lot of times you have to remind them of that motivation. Well, there's nothing you can really do. You're going to lose the property. There's life changes, major life events, divorce. Maybe you inherited a better property. Maybe you're going to sell the property you inherited. You want to relocate. A lot of people are relocating now. So I'm starting to see a couple of people tick in like, hey, you know what? We're interested in selling our property because, we're relocating from the area and we want to be able to get cash quickly, which I think has been really, really good, because a lot of people have some real estate that they own and they're like, hey, we're not going to be here any longer. It's something that we're interested in selling. So all the different life changes can get someone to want to sell a property quickly. And then my favorite is property issues. Poorly maintained properties, they don't want the responsibility. So many people inherit real estate and they have no idea what to do with it, and they just own it for a long time and it just sits there. So finding properties that have maintenance problems, they have no idea what to do with it, and they're just paying the taxes because they inherit it from mom and dad. You'll come across a lot of individuals in that situation. They have no idea what to do. So it's a good opportunity to have the ability to sell it, offer a quick close, and acquire a property and find a deal for you, whether you're going to wholesale it, flip it, or whatever your exit strategy is going to be. Now, I'm going to say, like, understanding motivation, it's really important. It's like, I named this webinar Psychology of, Motivated Seller. What you have to do is let these people talk. You have to really give them the opportunity to tell you what's going on. A lot of people want to have the ability to, go through it could be very emotional for whatever reason. So, the seller's emotional journeys, the initial realization, they finally understand, hey, we need to do something with this property. We need to do something. They get the overwhelming realization they're going to have to sell their property, whether it's a foreclosure, life changes, or whatever's going on. But that's overwhelming for a lot of people, whether they live there and that's their house they live in, or it's a house they grew up in, or, maybe it was cash flowing for them at one point. A lot of people are getting stuck with rentals in our area where the taxes are so high, it's not cash flowing anymore. So people are losing money every month owning a piece of real estate. And some people can't handle that. They can't, you could always say, hey, look at the bigger picture. If you stay doing this and maybe you lose a few $1,000s every month, but in the long term, it's going to be better. I can't afford to lose any money every month. They're going to get super emotional. The feeling of fear, anxiety, all that stuff starts getting in their spirit, and they're talking about, hey, we're going to lose our home, our investment. Now, this part right here I think is a key point for motivation. And a lot of people I'll talk to like, oh, David, you're taking advantage of these individuals. That's something that, I don't want to have I don't want to be a part of that. You're the scum of the earth. I've been called a bunch of different things. But this is when these people actually need help, right? Most people that get stuck in these kind of situations where it's something that they can't afford to fix, or that's something they don't know how to fix, they freak out and they have no idea what to do. You can be a person that can help them get through that situation. Now, they're going to be very apprehensive when you first talk to them. They're going to, if they agree to sell to you, they'll start second guessing their decision. They have no idea what they want to do. And they're going to be like, am I being too desperate? Am I getting desperate to get the deal done? They're going to be up and down. So you have desperation, emotional roller coaster. They're going to be up and down, not understanding what to do. Now, I tell people all the time, like, it's super important that you go through the process having good communication with them, letting them know, hey, I just wanted to follow up with you today, without saying that. I hate saying follow up with follow up. But just reaching out to them and say, I know yesterday we signed a contract. This is exactly what we're doing today. The title company is going to be reaching out with you. And having just simple communication throughout the process, even if it's going to take some time. I had a probate deal last year that I got the property under contract in February, and it didn't sell till after Halloween. I think that's a lie. It sold before Halloween. So I got the property under contract in January. We went through the whole probate process. Bear County, which is the main city I live in, it took a while. It was a long time to get the whole process done. And what ended up happening is we got everything done, buyers lined up, everything was good, sold the property. I made money. The family selling the property made money. The end buyer bought the property, rehabbed it, and sold it, and they've made money. So it was a good process for everybody. It took a long time. In the meantime, the people in charge of selling the property, they inherited it from a sister. And all of these guys wanted to get paid right away. They wanted their money right away. And I was like, guys, you just have to be patient. We have to go through this process. It takes a little bit of time. And so we did. We went through the whole process, made sure everyone was good. And I was constantly holding. I was like, hey guys, just to let you know, I called the attorney today. This is what they're working on. They're filing the motion with probate court. This is the next step. And just every time I got information, or even if I didn't get information, I was like, hey guys, have you guys heard from the attorney? Is there any update or anything along those lines? And just keep communication through the whole process. It keeps them at ease. It doesn't make them do anything crazy, because it's real easy, especially when someone wants money that they didn't earn. Like, some of the family members, they're getting money for something that, they had they're just getting money because they're related. Now, that happens a lot of time. I can tell you an opposite story that wasn't great like that, where there was a son and a daughter. And the weird thing is they were son and daughter, but the son's mom had adopted the daughter. So they were, in the eyes of the law, they were brother and sister. They were siblings, which is not, it sounds really, really weird. But when the mother died, she left the house to the kids. And you would think it would just be the son, but legally it was the son and the daughter because the grandma adopted the daughter. And let me tell you, this was a really good deal. I sold this property right in the middle of COVID, so the prices were super high. It was an amazing deal for me. It was going to be an amazing deal for them. We go through the whole process, got the probate done, and this deal we did fairly quickly. And when we got to the closing table, that he didn't want to meet at I use Independence Title. Shout out my escrow agent at Independence. She's amazing. And we went to closing, and he didn't want to drive all the way to New Braunfels. I use Independent Title in New Braunfels. And he's like, I want to meet somewhere in San Antonio. I was like, that's cool. Called my escrow agent. I was like, we need to get a notary. Let's meet at Jim's. In San Antonio, there's a little local cafe. It's called Jim's Cafe. We met at one right near his location where he had been staying. Got everything going, sat down, started going over the numbers with them, and I was at the closing so I can help explain it, because a lot of times the notaries they suck, and they're just like, oh, sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here. And sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not. So I'm there to streamline the process. Well, they're splitting a little over $100,000, right? That's the equity that's left in the property. Everything is going good. He gets to the daughter signed first. She signed everything. She's good to go. He gets to where he signs. And on the last signature page, it shows, on the closing disclosure, it shows the splits. And he had seen this document already. And his daughter ended up getting like $64,000. He was getting $52,000. And he's like, why isn't this a 50-50 split? I'm super mad, blah, blah, blah. We'll come to find out he owed child support to that daughter that's a grown daughter. And, title company does everything to make sure everything's done legally and right. So they look at the situation like, hey, this doesn't work. And the guy ended up having to pay some of that. He ripped the last page of the closing document because of that difference. And the escrow agent freaked out and was like, I'm not doing this. And he took the documents, everything except for one signature is missing, and he left. And this was the day before I was, not that I'm being selfish, day before I was going on vacation. Everything was supposed to be good. This was a home run deal for the year. I was highly pissed off. So she just sat there quietly, the daughter, and I explained to him, you can't do this. You're going to have to ride with me in Independence Title now. We're getting this document signed today, or you're going to lose your house. So we got the situation done, but this guy was super unhappy up to the last minute. If you're not taking care of that emotion with your motivated seller, it can bite you in the butt. So I always say, be transparent, be clear, have great communication, right? That is a good way to build trust with any motivated seller, especially if they're feeling like they're being taken advantage of. You have to be able to create that so you have the ability to make sure the transaction happens. So many times people get stuck on, oh, well, you're making money, And I'll tell you, like, the best answer for anybody, guys, and like, this is super simple. When someone tells me, when I go look at a property, my contract, if you're part of the Omega Collective, you go look at my 2-page contract that I use to lock up properties, it says on there, Section 11 says, I'm going to make money on this deal. It says it more professionally and nice, but I'm going to make money on the deal. 100%. Why would I do it if I didn't? Okay, the object is to make money and do the business. And someone's like, well, you told me you're here to help me. I am here to help you. I can help you solve your situation and get these things done. But if I didn't make money on every deal I did, I wouldn't be in business very long, right? I'd have to go work somewhere. I'd have to do a job. I'd have to go back to, teaching full time, or I'd have to go, work somewhere else. And I have a family to support. So I was like, of course it's my job. This is what we do to make money. And when I'm very straightforward with them like that, it usually relaxes them. Because a lot of times people approach the making money part is like, well, I'm not really making a lot of money. I'm trying to help people. That's my main goal. And my main goal is to make money. I'm going to help you in the process. And when I tell them that, they ask, like, what do you get out of it? Well, I'm going to make money. I'm going to make money on the deal. And at first, they're like, dang, this guy's an a-hole. I don't like him. But I'm telling you, it makes them more comfortable. And they're like, well, he's straightforward. The guy's honest with me. He told me he's going to make money on my deal. And being straightforward, having good communication, and being transparent really builds a good relationship. And so many times I have people sending family members and people they know, like, hey, you know what? Before you call that realtor and list your property for 6 months, call this guy David. If he can make the deal work, he'll get it done. And I'm telling you guys, 100%, like, it is super important that you do that. So the next thing I want to talk about is, identifying, what qualifies, as motivation. Okay. So let's see, let me go back, share my screen. And if you guys have any questions, you can just type them in the chat and I will answer those questions as we get to it. Even I'm only streaming on YouTube and Twitch right now. So in YouTube and Twitch, you can write in the chat and it'll automatically share it on my screen. So identifying and qualifying motivation. So key questions to ask, why do they need to sell the property? And if talk about it. Challenges. Why haven't you tried to sell the property before? Someone's told me before, hey, I'm losing my house and I've had a few people here to look at it. So I know like what the value is. That's the first thing they always say. Oh, I know the value of the property. So I asked them, why haven't you sold it yet then? And then identify their motivation by what's going on where they're at. You're going to either know why they're selling because of the motivation, or you're going to see, what's the reasoning, why are you having to sell this property? Uncover underlying reasons. What's the decision you finally sold? Is it because of financial distress? What's the main issue? And then what's the timeline? When is that foreclosure due? When are you trying to move? And if they don't have a timeline, guys, create one for them, and create one using urgency without being pushy. So I tell people this all the time, especially while I'm in Texas and we have terrible high property taxes. But one I always use is, especially for my tax deals, they're like, well, we're thinking about selling at the end of the year. And I'm like, why are you going to wait till the end of the year? And they're like, well, we're going to clean it out slowly and, take our time. And I usually respond to them like this. And I'm like, great. Last year, and I can check really quickly on the CAD, the County Appraisal District. Last year, you paid $5,200 in taxes, right? This year, it's probably going to be 10% more because it's not your home. Or if it is their homestead, the most they can go up is 10%. You're going to pay 10% on top of that. So you're going to pay $50,000. You're going to pay, well, it was $5,500. You're going to pay a little over $6,000 in taxes. And every month that you wait to sell this property, you're paying more of that. If you sell it this month, you're paying less of that. But in my contract, it says the seller's paying the taxes. The buyer's paying all the closing costs. I'm not paying your taxes for you. That's something you're going to have to pay. And every month you wait is one more month you're paying. The sooner you sell it, the less taxes you're going to pay on it. And you're already, whatever the reason is, if they're behind on their taxes, you're just increasing the bill and less money in your pocket. Usually when they realize that, they're like, oh, I thought it's the same no matter what. And it's like, no, if you sell it this month, you're going to pay less taxes for 2025 because it's February 2025. Red flags to watch. Make sure that, these people are actually motivated. I talk to a lot of people that have houses in terrible condition, and I'll go look at them. They really don't care. You're like, how do you have this property in this situation? So when I see the red flags for people that aren't super motivated or anything like that, I create motivation for them, and I'll approach it. my favorite one to use is for a house that's in complete disarray or abandoned. Is one, this house isn't, if the house isn't listed with the city as absentee, there's no one living there or empty, it's a problem with the city. You're supposed to disclose that to them so you get added to that list. So if the house happens to burn down and it's a big dangerous fire, the firefighters will have your property on the list that says, "Oh, this is an empty property. It's vacant. It's on the vacant list." So it's not a huge problem for us. Like, it's safer just to keep the guys outside. It attracts crime. Empty properties are magnets to crime. That's why if you own a piece of real estate and you have regular homeowners insurance and you have a property empty for multiple months at a time, or a long period of time, and that house burns down, the insurance isn't going to cover it, because most homeowner policies do not cover vacant properties. So if you own a piece of real estate and it's vacant right now, you have to have a vacant policy. You can't have standard homeowners insurance, because the homeowners insurance is thinking you're living there, so they're not going to see people just randomly going in there and lighting a fire in the living room. So they won't. They like, "Was anyone living here?" "Well, no, we haven't lived there in 6 months." The homeowners insurance ain't going to pay, and then you're going to have a problem. So if you do own some empty real estate and you have a standard homeowners policy, you need to make sure you get a vacant policy. And if you need insurance, I know a guy. Making sure, lacking true motivation is a big one. I do tons of calls. So my goal is to make 4 hours of calls every day, right? Right over here is my headset. I put this guy on and we make 4 hours of calls. I'm constantly making calls because that's how I get deals. That's my biggest way of getting deals, is making calls to these individuals, whether multiple different lists, how my motivation is, and what the different things that we do is I make a ton of phone calls, and I probe for motivation. I analyze what they're trying to do, if they need to sell their property, what keys are, and what they're working on to get the property sold, and I build from there. It's worked amazing for me, but it works for anybody. The thing is, I hate making calls. It's the worst part of my business, is having to make cold calls. And my goal is I would try to make 4 hours of calls a day, but at minimum 200 calls. I mean, I'll make 100 calls, no one will answer. 25 of them will have a small conversation. 20 more I'll have go to hell, F you, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes those deals aren't worth pursuing. It's super important for you to analyze what's actually going on and, probe for that motivation. Sometimes if they hang up on me and I know it's a foreclosure, I know the motivation's there. So I don't necessarily give up on that lead. I have a list. I'm going to do a webinar soon showing what my process is on YouTube throughout the week. I'm going to start going live on YouTube and TikTok while I'm making calls, so y'all can kind of hear what's going on and, get an idea of what I do on a day-to-day basis, because that is really what it takes for you to actually start making money, is doing the grunt work, knocking that stuff out. A lot of people still send postcards. I send postcards. They're very targeted. I don't mass postcard anymore. It's too expensive. So I target postcards to individuals, and that still brings me phone calls in and pulls leads in. I do social media marketing, a bunch of different techniques, but nothing compares to calling, right? Except for door knocking, but door knocking takes a lot of time. When you're negotiating with these motivated sellers, what you want to do is create, I put here crafting a win-win situation, understanding the seller's pain points, frame your offer as a solution that addresses their specific needs, such as a timely sale, hassle-free transaction, and financial relief. I'm going to tell you guys, the big key factors is putting some money in their pocket, selling the property quickly, but the biggest one is hassle-free. Right? When I'm going against a realtor to sell a property, it's like, guys, they're like, "Oh, well, you're going to have to show the property. We're going to have to do, there's a lot going on. What are the different, aspects of this situation?" It's like, look, they're like, "What do I have to do?" I worked with the family recently. They're like, "I have no idea what I'm doing. Tell me, like, what do I do?" And we go through the whole situation together. And they're like, "The title company called me. They just wanted me to send my email." It's like, cool. I provided the email, but the title company wanted it again. But you want to make it as hassle-free and as simple as possible so these guys don't feel overwhelmed and they don't get scared. Because as soon as they start getting scared, they start closing up. You will be surprised how many individuals sit on their hands because they just don't know what to do. So creating a win-win situation's the least amount of work needed for the individual, the easiest and the fastest. And if you can put money in their pocket, the money in the pocket's a real big one because a lot of people are like, do you put money in everyone's pocket? I don't. That would be a lie if I told you that every person that I've ever helped made money off a deal. Now, have I ever not made money on a deal? I've lost money on some flips, but if I'm wholesaling a property or on the acquiring property side, I've never lost money. I've always made money on a deal. I've made a little bit of money. There's one deal. I did one deal with my buddy either last year or the year before where like we split, like it was a small amount. I think I made like $2,000, but I still made money. I've done a wholesale deal where, and I like to, preach what I teach, do what I'm going to say. I had a lady that was facing foreclosure. I hated using one of my buyers, but I think I made like $800 on her house, but I saved her from getting a foreclosure on her credit. And I'm doing what I said I was going to do. So it's really important that you're crafting a win-win solution. When you're framing the offer, always talk about how quickly you can do it, the convenience. The one thing that a lot of wholesalers do that pisses a lot of people off, if you're in the wholesale aspect, is creating, the certainty of being able to sell the property. I don't ever sell a property that I wouldn't be able to do the deal myself. Now, do I want to do the deal all the time? No, because I don't want to do, I'm not interested in doing these. People are wanting to rebuild houses instead of just flipping them. Not really wanting to do that. I want to make the quickest amount of money with the least amount of work. Now, a lot of people, they'll still acquire properties that don't meet, the math doesn't add up. The ARV, if you know how to analyze the ARV and understand a concept of what the construction budget's going to be on a property and the math works, it's a deal. If you don't understand how to do the ARV or you don't understand how to come up with the ideal contractor budget, you're not ready to put properties under contract. You shouldn't be doing it because a lot of time I see these wholesalers, I get emails every day, right? I want to be on everybody's list. I want to see properties all over the place. And I'll see these deals and they're using comps from 2022. And they'll put some 2024 comps in there. But the bottom one, the highest comp's always a 2022 deal. Now, I tell people all the time, it's like, that isn't necessarily going to work. That doesn't help. It's not going to solve anyone's problem by sneaking in that bad comp on the bottom. It's either a good deal or not. So if you're going to analyze deals and you're finding properties, don't lock up a property under contract that you're not certain you can sell. You need to make sure the math works. And if it's a good deal, you won't have any trouble selling it. I tell people that all the time. If you get a true deal, and like a lot of people do 65% rules, I usually do 70% rule, right? If I get it 70% of the ARV minus the repairs, I can move the deal 99% of the time. The only thing that would keep that deal from moving is if there's title issues or there's an unknown repair that just like, hey, this foundation has a 50-inch gap in it. This is destroyed. It's 50 degrees off or whatever. So you frame the offer, and then, the last thing dealing with the seller is, overcoming objections. The price, offering 70% of the deal minus repairs is not necessarily what they want. Explain why you're offering that and show them. Look, they're like, oh, well, the house down the street sold for $350,000. Giving them actionable reasons on why their house isn't going to sell for $350,000, and be clear, you're going to hurt their feelings, but hurt their feelings. Let them know. It's like, yes, that house has brand new windows, a brand new HVAC. Everything in the house is updated. Your house is still 1976. The flooring is 1976. Original bathrooms, original kitchen. It's not going to sell for that amount. And they're like, okay, well, you could easily update it. Yes, you can easily update it, but when you do it right, by a contractor, and you do it right for the city to be happy, You're going to need to pull permits, replace the kitchen, upgrade the plumbing, upgrade some electrical, make sure everything's good to go, make sure HVAC is up to code. Bringing the house up to code and making it pretty is going to cost a lot of money. And show them a breakdown. You can inflate your numbers to retail prices, because anyone that's flipping houses should not be paying retail prices for material or for services. But retail, if you show them retail, someone tells me, oh, that kitchen's going to cost $12,000 to rehab. That's to me, that's ultra high, but I can easily say that kitchen's going to cost $25,000 to rehab. And I'm not wrong, because we could go to Lowe's or Home Depot right now. I can pick a few different cabinets and countertops and spend $25,000 without even buying that range. Super easy to spend too much money. I'm not necessarily going to do that, but you can use that as tools like, the pricing to get things done, and using retail prices in your negotiation is going to keep that price low. So there's a profit margin for you, if that makes sense. So talking and negotiating with them, and like I said, guys, the biggest thing is just be transparent in the situation. And if the deal doesn't work, move on. Now, I will tell you, when I meet with a motivated seller and the negotiation doesn't go exactly how I want, and the deal doesn't work, that's not the last time they hear from me, whether they like it or not. Because the next day or the day after, I'm going to reach out. I was like, hey, guys, I just want to let you know that my offer is still available, and I'll close on your property quickly. Sometimes they're like, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Sometimes they'll tell me to go, fly a kite. They'll tell me different things. And that kind of stuff doesn't bother me, because I have my goal is to get the deal. And more than once have I gotten a call a few weeks later where their foreclosures in a week, or their foreclosures in 2 weeks. Like, can you please help us? Everyone else is coming in lower, or, everyone else is just rude and you were actually a fair guy. Can you still make the deal work? And I tell them, I'll try, but you waited a long time. So I have to see if we can get the foreclosure stopped, or if my title company can work, or if I can move that quickly. And, sign the contract and let's go from there. Get the contract signed and obviously, spring into action, get things done, talk to your title company, let them know the foreclosure date. Can they postpone it? Get your team moving to be able to stop the foreclosure from happening. And again, guys, if anyone has any questions, just type them in the chat. I'll answer any questions through the chat. So the other ethical approach to working with motivated sellers, balancing profit with integrity. This is a big one for me for two parties. If I can put money into whoever I'm buying the properties from pocket, I always want to do that. But to me, the balancing profit is on the sell end. When you're selling it, if you're going to wholesale this property, when you're selling it to your investor, if the potential profit on the deal is $100,000, I don't care how much of a wholesale fee you charge. If you charge them $30,000 and they have the ability to make $70,000, that's great. Where I have a problem is when the wholesale fee is $20,000 and the potential profit's $30,000, and you're eating up all the profit on the wholesale fee. You're never going to stay in business long doing stuff like charging gigantic wholesale fees and leaving your end developer with barely any profit. You want to make sure that these guys are making money, so when they finish that flip and they want another one, instead of looking for it, they just call you. They're like, hey, David, do you have another deal just like the one I bought from you? And then you start building your customer base of people that always buy your properties. So prioritizing the interest of the other parties and making sure you make money is the best way to go if you plan on selling more than one deal. Ensuring full disclosure, making sure everyone knows exactly what's going on, and don't be deceptive and cheat people. That's essentially what this whole slide is. Don't be deceptive. Don't cheat people. Be fair with your offers. Build yourself a positive reputation. Excuse me. Sorry, my allergies are killing me. And 100% of the time, you will make a lot of money doing this business. I told a gentleman the other day on the phone, I was like, if you can understand the ARV, understand the basics of what a contractor needs to do the business, understand the approach in controlling your contractors and controlling your deal, really, you can make a lot of money in real estate. Don't get big head. Don't try to cheat people, and focus on those priorities, and you can make a lot of money in the business. Okay. So I really think it's important that, everyone should be ethical, right? But there's no reason to cheat people. There's no reason to, on this deal, I have to knock it out of the park. You're not going to be in business very long if you do that to anybody. Okay. It's really, really important that you go through and have the ability to, actually help people in these situations. Make sure you're supporting them and giving them the opportunity to get out of their whatever the person you're buying the property from is getting out of a bad deal, and the person you're selling the property to is getting a deal that's going to make them money. And if you do that, you'll be a great middleman and you'll make a lot of money doing it. If you're screwing one or the other up, you're going to build a reputation that you're not going to be in business long. So I'm going to tell you, I've had one person hurt my reputation. I worked for this gentleman for a very long time, and I've done countless deals with these people, and there was one deal that we did and everything didn't work out perfect. And I didn't take the blame. I was given the blame for the deal not finishing correctly. And like that hurt my reputation. Those individuals hate me, even though I had nothing to do with the situation. And, I explained to them, I've called them. It's like, this is how it works. This is what we need to do to get the situation done. And they've got to the point to where they're completely silent. They don't want to talk to anybody. They just completely blanked out and forget about it. But I'm telling you, 100% of the time, like, it's so easy to burn and destroy relationships like that. So you want to make sure that, you're trying to do all the things that that are written here. It's super important. Okay. Any questions on that so far? We're getting towards the end here, I think. So real life scenario and some case study information on different things that we've done is, and I tell people this all the time, foreclosures. I've showed so many people how to avoid foreclosure. Obviously, avoid a foreclosure is pay your mortgage, but a lot of people can't do that. So there are some ways to postpone that. But when I talk to individuals like, well, have you tried this? Or this is what you can do. They're like, you know what? I have a lot of money coming in. But foreclosure avoidance, divorce settlements. These are some of my favorite deals because the people getting a divorce hate each other. So I can get a property at a good deal because they hate each other so bad. They feed off that emotion, and I'm able to keep a property or get a property for a really good deal. Inheritance resolutions. So many times family members and this happens a lot in San Antonio because we have a large, Hispanic community, and there's lots of kids. Well, 100% of the time, just say there's 10 kids and mom and dad die, and mom and dad had a paid off house and it's worth $100,000. Well, all 10 of those kids, whatever the will says should fly. But if there's no will, which is 75% of the time, they're going to have to sell that property. Well, there's 10 kids, $100,000. They're going to make, if there's no taxes or anything, $10,000 each. There's always one kid that thinks that they deserve more, and they fight, and all 10 of them will fight. That's why, guys, if you don't have a will, at least get a will to take care of your family so they know who gets it. Maybe one kid was great and helped you and took care of you your whole life. Maybe they should get everything, and the other 9 kids get nothing. But it needs to be worked with. I've worked with a bunch of elderly people that they wanted to sell their property before they died just for that situation. Or a lot of times you'll have a husband or a wife that passes away, and the person that passed away was that business go-getter. They have a bunch of investment properties. They have all these different things, and they're just like, well, he's had those properties for 20 years. I've never even been to one. And then you have to help them get those properties sold. Or another one's dealing with people with medical expenses. This one right here is a really good one, because if you can talk to somebody that's maybe going to have to go into a nursing home or different things along those lines, it's a great idea for them to sell that property before they go into the nursing home. Because what ends up happening is the nursing homes, they go and take advantage and end up getting them to sell the property, and then the nursing home starts taking that money. Now they know they have money from a sold property. They started taking advantage of it. So that one's a really good one to actually help people get the money in their personal account instead of the nursing home's account. Rental property woes, right? Especially in San Antonio, incomes have not caught up to what rent should be. Still, even though we've had, some property values went down this past year for the first time I've ever seen. Property values are still not to where they need to be, and rents aren't caught up to those values, and rents are not caught up to what people pay. So people are making $50,000. Well, they should be making $100,000 to afford the rent that the rental owners need to cash flow their property. So you're seeing a lot of rental rows in that area, and people getting overwhelmed with terrible people. You have professional renters out there that know the system and get 4, 5, 6, 7 months of free rent, and you're paying that mortgage, or you're having to worry about paying that money, or upkeeping that property without making any income for multiple months. That's why it's so important, guys, to be super picky on who you let live in your rentals. San Antonio City, I don't know if they still call it Military City, USA, but it was for such a long time. And families are always leaving. It's like, we need to sell our property quick. Can you help us? Or different things along those lines. And I've seen people sell their property at gigantic discounts just to be done with it. And that's where you can take advantage and make some good money doing the process. So those are some different things along the lines there. And that's actually the end of my slides. But the thing is, like, when I talk to different motivated sellers, I probe for motivation. I want to see what I can do to actually help them, if I can help them. And if I can't, or the situation's not working, I tell them. It's like, you know what? I know I could buy your property, but that isn't going to really help in your situation. This is what you should do. Or if I've taught people how to get a TRO to postpone their foreclosure, or different things along those lines to help them in the situation. So I'm not a liar. And when I'm talking to people, it's like, hey, this is David with M&M Home Buyers. I'm reaching out to you. Your property came up on a list and we're calling to see if if you're interested in selling your property. First, the response I usually get is, what list is my property on? And I'll tell them, well, your property came up on the pre-foreclosure list for Bexar County. And they're like, no, that's impossible. I was like, no, you live at 123 Apple Street? And they're like, well, where do you mean? Like, how do you know my address? I was like, well, it's public record, but your property is listed. And a lot of times, like, why didn't you talk to my husband? Because I thought our mortgage was paid. That happens a lot. And I'll tell them, okay, that's awesome. Well, please give me a call back, or would you like me to follow up with you? Like, yeah, give me a call later. You can talk to him yourself, and I'll follow up with them. Or they're like, yeah, we are facing foreclosure. I lost my job 6 months ago, and I have no idea what to do. It's like, okay, cool. Well, and I tell them, I'm a real estate investor. I'm not a realtor. I buy properties in the area, and I can give you a cash offer on the property. Like, okay, cool. Set up a time, go meet them, talk to them, and doing it in person is so much better than over the phone. It's harder for someone to tell you no to your face than over the phone. So you go through that situation, you start going through those different processes of what needs to get done, and just continue calling over and over and over. And you'll see the situation, what comes up. And like on the omegacollective.com, there's a fact sheet, a new fact sheet I have that's coming out. It's questions to answers. Well, how fast can you close? Well, what's the process, and what happens if I let it foreclose on? What happens to me? Right? A lady didn't know that you needed to, a lady didn't know that once you get foreclosed on, if this property sells at the foreclosure auction, if it sells for less than what's owed, the mortgage holder can come back and sue you for the difference. A couple questions. How do you find these motivated seller lists? So, like, an example is there's lots of different lists. Like, so I have a absentee owner list, or you can pull lists from, I use Propelio a lot. But in the counties, you can pull foreclosure listings from your county clerk, because pre-foreclosures are listed, and there's some different tools. Like, I can pull foreclosures on Propelio, or so I can, Jerry, when we talk one-on-one, I can show you some different things. Another question is, do you have to have a license to get a foreclosure list? No, you do not. You do not have to be a licensed real estate agent to do real estate. A lot of people think that you have to. You do not. I am not a real estate agent. I do not have my license to do real estate, and I've been doing real estate for 14 or 15 years, a long time. So it's so you don't need to be real estate. Now I'm thinking, just I'll let everyone know, I've been thinking about getting my real estate license because I'd like to buy a brokerage. And it's a few year process to get to the broker level, but I'd like to start managing some high valued high valued rental properties to bring in more income. So I'm not licensed to do real estate now, and I do real estate, so it's not necessary. So we can talk about that more one-on-one. Does anyone else have any questions? No? Awesome. So it's cool. We have a good amount of people in here today. I'm gonna, just so everyone knows, I do have a list of webinars that we have going on. Let me see. I'm going to show you guys, everyone that's here. Give me a second. I'm going to show. I'm going to show you my schedule so you can, if you'd like to join us on our next webinar. Here, I'm going to share my screen right now. Share screen. So on Facebook, you can go to the Omega Collective Facebook page, and it's an actual page. And if you look under events, we have some stuff coming up. So this is obviously today's webinars. We did the psychology of a motivated seller. Our next webinars, we're going to talk about your pre-contract scripts, how you talk to these individuals when you first get started, starting the conversation. That's actually going to be on Monday coming up. So Monday at 7 p.m. We have another webinar on Monday the 10th at 7 p.m. where it's overcoming common seller objections. We have another one on the 15th is post contracts. Like, how do you talk to these individuals after you get the property under contract? And then on the 17th, we're going to be using scripts to build credibility. So, and then that's going to lead us into March, where we're going to really do a lot of one-on-one talking to individuals. And I'm going to put that content out there available so you can start doing deals. So the people that are part of the Omega Collective already. So anyone that doesn't know, the Omega Collective is my website. And there's lots of information in there. This isn't a free site. So there's different memberships. There's a basic, a pro, and a premium membership. Those are the monthly plans. If you pay for an annual plan where you pay for it all up front, you can use my I have a coupon code that still works. It's Big Stacks 24. It gives you a discount. On the premium plan, I think it's 50%. The pro plan gives you $200 off, and there's no discount for the basic plan because it's super cheap. So you can try that out if you're interested. If not, you can still get free content joining on our webinars and different things along those different things along the lines there. But we do have our next webinar Monday night at 7 p.m. I will send out information today for that. And, we're just kind of building from there. So if you have any questions, please feel free to, send me a message, send me a DM. I know we're streaming live on YouTube right now, and we're streaming on, StreamYard, which is my streaming platform. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. Let us know anything we can help you do. My goal is obviously to build the community, and there's a couple of individuals, like I know Angie's on here. I want to get her going and finding deals and making money. Jerry as well. Melissa's out there. We're working on commercial deals, ready to take over the universe, which I love because that motivates me to work harder. So we have some good stuff upcoming. And if you have any questions or need any help, let us know. If you don't necessarily are interested in joining the Omega Collective, like the actual website, just go join our Facebook page, the Omega Collective. It looks just like this. You'll get more content on there. I post on there quite often. Or if you're watching on YouTube, like, follow, and subscribe so you'll get notifications when we post new content. Other than that, if no one else has any questions, guys, I appreciate everyone joining, and we'll be back here Monday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. Everyone have a blessed day. Bye-bye.